We already know Harry has feelings for Macy, but like, obviously he's developing some feelings for Abigail too, and there's so much jealousy going on there, it's crazy. Hey guys, it's Kristen, and today we're talking about episode 8 of the Charmed reboot. This is the season 2 mid-season finale, and it gets pretty crazy. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on this episode of Charmed. So in this episode, we are following the aftermath of Parker proposing to Maggie. It is a pretty big deal, and at first Maggie's like, this is crazy, we definitely should not get married. But the more she thinks about it, she's like, you know what? Maybe there is a way for us to bring peace between the witches and the demons, and this could be it. I have to say, in preparation for Maggie's wedding, everybody looked so good. Maggie's outfit, like that whole red queen, red wedding vibe, insane, so beautiful. Mel looking sparkly and glam, and Macy in that black jumpsuit with that fur-lined jacket. Killed me. They all looked so good. I could not even. Of course, while Maggie has come up with this whole plan for peace, the other sisters are not so sure that this is gonna work. I think based off of how we see Parker react, the way that he interacts with everyone, I could see why they think that. He definitely starts to sort of embrace his demon side and his demon jealousy and anger a bit more. So clearly Macy and Mel don't really think that Maggie is making the right decision. And it was actually really nice to see the two of them on the same side for once. I did feel like this was a little bit more of a bonding episode for them. They make this plan to have Mel transform into a fly so that she can be a fly on a wall and literally find out what is Parker up to. And Mel definitely has transformed a couple of times this season. I hope that they continue to do more of that. So Mel finds out that Godric is the one kind of behind a lot of what's going on. He's the one that led that mission to go get those apples that are supposed to make you immune to magic. When she tries to tell Maggie all of this, she feels really kind of offended that Mel didn't trust her judgment, and I think that's something that we've seen a lot this first half of the season so far, is Maggie sort of being the one being treated like a baby. And honestly, I mean, she has been acting like it a little bit, but I think that she is trying to be more mature and take on more responsibility, and this was kind of her way of trying to do that, of trying to make a big change, even though it doesn't really work out. But Maggie ends up kicking Mel out of the wedding, and she goes back to the command center and discovers something that to me was a bit confusing. She discovers a little piece of a tree that has some type of black ember in it that is supposedly the same ember that's in Jordan's ring, which is what gave Maggie her visions and her ability to have premonitions. To me, that storyline felt like it kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. Unless I missed something, where were we told that this black ember came from a tree, and why would like a little stick from that tree be within this command center? That doesn't really make any sense to me. It felt like they jumped forward into something that we just like have no idea what they're even talking about. And then back at the wedding, Maggie kind of does look into some of the things that Mel had brought up, and she realizes that her sister was right, and she tries to talk to Parker about it, and he becomes this really big jerk. Now Parker doesn't trust Maggie anymore, and he uses his powers that I didn't know he even had to look into Maggie's mind and sees Jordan is there, and then he becomes really jealous. He wants to now do this blood ritual that is going to make it so that Maggie will have to listen to whatever he says no matter what, and now she doesn't want to marry him anymore, because who wants to have a marriage like that? They end up getting Abigail's help in breaking up the ceremony, and I think that even though Abigail's not in this episode as much, I think you can tell that a lot of what is happening is part of Abigail's plan to get rid of Parker and make herself the Overlord. Maggie, Macy, and Harry manage to get away, and they get back to safe space. Mel manages to tell her sisters about what she found with this black ember, and Maggie does have another vision, and as we know, Jordan has this curse in his family that no one can live past 25, and it turns out Parker is going to be the one to kill him. And this is where we get into kind of one of the best moments of the episode, because we get to see that this black ember that honestly still doesn't make any sense to me really does help bring back the girl's powers, but with a new twist. So Mel ends up putting an arm out and freezing Parker before he can continue to do anything else to Jordan. And Harry's like, yo Mel, you have molecular manipulation. And that to me is crazy, because originally, you know, Maggie's power was empathy and being able to touch someone and kind of read their minds. Mel's power was to freeze time, and now the two of them in this new season, which supposedly claimed to be stepping completely away from not only the last season of Charmed, but the original series in general, has conveniently given these girls the exact same powers as their counterparts in the original series. So now Maggie has this power of foresight, or aka premonition, and Mel has molecular manipulation, which was what it turned out Piper's power really was. We thought Piper had like time-changing abilities, but it turns out it was really molecular manipulation, and she ended up being able to like blow things up and stuff. And now we see here that Mel is able to freeze things, so maybe that means eventually she'll be able to blow things up as well. Abigail comes out of nowhere to continue her plan, and she ends up stabbing Parker, and it looks like Parker's dead. The Charmed ones think Parker's dead, except I kept thinking, he just kind of floated away with his little demon dark shadowness. There's no way he's dead. Like, he just kind of probably escaped, right? And it turns out that is exactly what happened. We get to see at the very end Abigail has Parker locked up in the same cage that she was locked up in, and now she is going to take over as the Overlord. Abigail is coming forward and being like, I'm the new Overlord now, and clearly with Godric by her side, she's tricked the Charmed ones into thinking that she's sort of on their side, even though they're very suspicious of her still. Like, she did help them. And it sort of seems like she has almost everything she's wanted. So I'm curious, what is the next step for Abigail? And also, I really want to know, is there actually an Overlord somewhere else? Because again, we're following this myth that we don't know anything about. We still haven't learned the true myth of the Overlord. We just know Parker's pretending to be the Overlord, Abigail's pretending to be the Overlord, but they're just pretending to take on that power. So is there gonna be a real Overlord that's gonna come in at some point? And not only that, but she's also getting a little sugar. She and Harry have a really intense makeout scene that Macy sees and is clearly jealous of. And speaking of that, I'm so curious about this whole dynamic of like Harry, Macy, Abigail, and Dark Harry, because Mel in this sisterly time that she's finally having with Macy reveals that the reason they were able to find her when the Dark Lighter took her is because they found that picture of Harry, and Macy is like, ooh, that wasn't Harry, that was Dark Harry. He like really intrigues me. And I'm like, wait a minute, so does she like Harry and Dark Harry? Does she like Dark Harry but she doesn't realize that she does have feelings for Harry? We already know Harry has feelings for Macy, but like obviously he's developing some feelings for Abigail too, and there's so much jealousy going on there, it's crazy. We do finally get to have a nice sisterly moment in this episode. I do think this is the one that we finally get to see the things that we've sort of been waiting for. We get to see a little bit more magic, we get to see Macy and Mel having some moments together, and we get to see the sisters reunite. They get to have that little classic sitting on a bed, you know, talking about life, giving advice kind of moment, which I know that we've all been waiting for. The other thing is like, is Jordan okay? All we saw was him getting knocked out by Parker, and then they kind of moved on from everything and we never got to see like, is he okay? And then going into the next half of the season, we're going to supposedly be following the sisters working even harder to get their abilities back, to really get back into the magic and the power of 3. And then in this promo that they came out with, we get this crazy twist that finally introduces us to Mel and Maggie's dad, Ray, who turns out not to be dead. And so that just to me, like, it's cool. I'm excited to learn more about this man that, you know, we thought was dead, that we thought was always like a deadbeat dad. There's obviously some kind of twist that we have no idea about. To me, that just makes me think like there were so many opportunities then in last season and this season to actually introduce us to that guy in flashbacks or something, just so that we get a little bit more about this character, because now here he is. We're gonna get to meet him anyway. So I just think that they could have set that up a little bit better. And I also gotta say, while I did enjoy this episode, at the same time I feel like what has really happened so far this season, because they think they killed Dark Harry, he's not really dead. They think Parker's killed, he's not really dead either. We don't know who the real Overlord is other than, you know, Abigail. And there's this master that we also still don't know who that is yet. I just think that we've gotten the answers to things that in the long run have ended up being a lot smaller than they seem, like dark lighters and Jordan's ring, but what is the deal with the Witch versus Demon War? Like, what's happening there? Why aren't the Charmed ones really very involved in that? So far, we're not really seeing much. And the little bit that we are seeing, like for instance in this episode we see Layla come back again, and she talks about how she and the other witches have been patrolling all these magical areas to try to protect other magical beings. It's like, wait a minute, why aren't the Charmed ones doing that? Aren't they supposed to be the main source of protection for the world of magic? Right now the writing feels a little bit lazy to me in places where I'm just like, shouldn't we have a little bit of some kind of inkling of what's happening. I think that this show needs to do a little something more to bring this story together, because right now for me it does feel all over the place. I feel like a lot has happened but also nothing has really happened. So it just makes me wonder what is going on here. When are we gonna start getting real answers and real excitement and adventure? If you like this one, you can check out more of my Charmed reviews right over here, and I will catch you in my next video. See ya!